Alright, hi friends, it's Lauren here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Happy fall! It's finally fall time. It is officially the season of pre-seasonal depression and also the season of peak fashion and culture and just all things nice and cozy. It's finally our time. It's also that season of time which we have to question, we have to wonder, what the hell am I gonna watch in order to get into this nice, cozy, pre-hibernation kind of mood? And I'm here to answer that question. Sort of. Kind of. There's a lot that goes into this, right? Autumn is an interesting season, honestly, because this is like that one season that's so small, like you only have such a small window of time in which to like seize the moment, right? Which is why we hyper capitalize autumn, honestly, for the most part. Like sometimes, hey, because it's fall, we're gonna get all of these new fall clothes. I'm guilty of that. Hey, we're gonna get these pumpkin spice lattes, that special snack at Trader Joe's you've been holding back on getting, but like every single year you give into capitalism yet again. It is that season. It's really just pre-hibernation time. It's kind of like a season of, I don't know, like people associate it with dying, but I saw a tweet recently that was about talking about some new birth. I fuck with that. So it's just a season in which you feel change is coming, and because you feel like change is coming and because like you can literally see it viscerally and you see all these colors that you never see any other time of the year, fall really just feels like something special, which is why we try to seize it as much as possible, which includes, you know, you already know, watching that good shit, you know what I'm saying? So, for example, something you could watch during the fall is Ghibli movies. Honestly, it's one of the best things you could possibly watch. It's just because Ghibli movies, even though a lot of them kind of take place in the summer within like late 20th century Japan, it's just something about it is so nice and cozy and warm, and it gives you that unique fall feeling regardless of whatever the actual setting of the movie is. So that for sure is peak fall, and I'm really looking forward to The Boy in the Heron that comes out in December, which honestly, like December we consider it winter because it's associated with Christmas, but honestly because of the climate lately, it kind of feels like fall sometimes. Don't attack me. But yeah, I'm very excited for that, The Boy and the Heron. But other like Ghibli movies, for example, there is House Moving Castle, which is very fall in my opinion. And there's also Nausicaa The Valley of the Wind, which is, again, it's like a great epic story that feels cozy and gives you such a magical, whimsical sense after watching it. So I don't know, I think that's perfect. Oh yeah, there's Matsuko Shinkai movies, which I also think are a classic staple that most people usually watch during the fall. For example, Your Name. I don't think you can really go wrong with that movie any time of the year, but especially in the fall and the summer, like that movie hits very, very different. Again, that whimsical, fantastical feeling. Those are those movies and those are the classics that we go to, but I wanted to give recommendations based off anime because for some people, for one, I'm a huge weeb, right? Okay, I'm a huge weeb. But for another, I think animes are like a good way in order to get into the fall mood because sometimes like they are episodic. If you're watching the seasonal ones, they come out each week, so they keep you consistently in that mood as opposed to watching it one and done. They're also shorter, so if you have a busy schedule like most of us do, like for example, I'm a college student, sometimes I don't have the time to dedicate to watching a whole hour and a half movie in order to get into the fall mood, right? Like if I'm doing that, if I'm waiting for that amount of time, I'll be waiting to the end of the damn month and Halloween will have gone and passed and I would have felt sad about it. But for an anime, there are 24 episodes, some of which that I'm recommending are really short. It's hard to go wrong for anime for fall, in my opinion. So if you've been looking for something to watch, here are some anime recommendations for the fall. There is the obvious like seasonal animes. For example, like one of the biggest ones right now is Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, and I really like this one because for one, in case you don't know what it's about this boy named Itadori Yuji eats a cursed finger, yada yada yada, like ends up having to be the vessel of this cursed being that inhabits his body as a result of eating the finger, and they are trying to fight off these curses that are trying to make it be an age of curses and essentially just like get rid of all human beings. So that's what the story's about, right? Itadori Yuji is just like such a comfort character in itself. Y'all be dissing him, but that's my son, okay? Like he just is so simple-minded that it's cozy to watch. So it kind of gives that cozy feeling just based off the main cast. It kind of have that found family dynamic going on, and they're all crazy and dynamic in their own ways, which makes the show, despite being depressing at times, because obviously it's about curses and there's a death and all of that, it makes it feel nice and homey. There's also the spooky aspect to it, because again, this follows cursed spirits, cursed energy, and there are a lot of spooky, creepy things, love horrifying things you'll see in the show. This season especially, honestly, like I really liked the artistic approach that this season has taken because there's such a jazzy, atmospheric energy to the way it's directed and also to the music that's playing with the direction. I think it's doing an amazing job so far, and I'm looking forward to watching it for the rest of fall. So definitely Jujutsu Kaisen, in case you have not watched it already, I highly recommend getting into it. There's season 1, 0, and then season 2. Go ahead and watch it. Another anime that I really looked forward to seasonally was Spy Family. It is the story of a girl, a psychic girl, who has been adopted by a spy who in turn marries an assassin. And all three of them have no idea who each other are, aside from the psychic girl, of course, because she reads minds. Violence. Duh. I don't know if people remember last season. I think it also was out in the fall, and they had this amazing, spectacular opening that was so fall-esque. I've yet to watch the new season because it is October 8th. The audience is October 8th, and I've yet to watch the first episode of the new season. But I'm super excited because I think, again, the found family trope is so super cozy and nice, and it's like very comedic. So like sometimes you just need a nice laugh on the weekend after a rough week of work and just like going about hustling. So Spy Family is definitely that anime. Like, it will surprise you. I think it's really good for any person. I think Spy Family is for everybody. So highly recommend it. Another show this season I'm looking forward to watching is Tokyo Revengers. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. If you're watching it for the plot, I think that's good. Me, personally, I watch it because of the characters and the character dynamics I enjoy watching. It's just a nice show to turn your brain off, and it also involves gangs. Like, in my opinion, gangs are very fall. I'm sorry. Gangs, violence, all the like of that is very, very fall. I don't think you could go wrong with it. It's about this boy named Takamichi who ends up going back in time in order to save the love of his life. They were in a relationship earlier before, they fade apart. He goes back in time in order to save her and then ends up becoming part of this huge gang plot that is going on. And it is super sick. As a super sick premise, is it executed the best? Some might argue not. I might be some of those few. However, it's still, I would highly recommend it, okay? So then there's also the Ancient Magus Bride. Look, magic is fall. Ancient Magus Bride, again, is a magic story. It's super cozy, and it follows the story of this girl named Kisei, who was basically sold into slavery and was bought by this ancient magus. And it turns out, like, they both end up teaching each other how to be human in a sort of way. Like, well, he helps to free her, but really she helps free herself by learning from him and also learning from more experiences on how to be human, how to take care of other people, and how to, I don't know, just like live a nice, fulfilling life. I think it's entirely worth the watch. I don't even think I did it justice explaining it, but I'll probably be showing some clips as I'm explaining it, and you'll see exactly what kind of atmosphere, what kind of ambiance it gives. It's another show too where the opening is such a banger. It's also always sung by like the same artist. I swear they're getting better and better with time, which I didn't even think you could beat the first one, but they literally are getting better with time, which is insane to me. I would recommend. Which leads to my segue. Again, like magic, fantasy, all that is a really good vibe. I would highly recommend Burn the Witch. Okay, it's done by the same creator of Bleach, and I feel like still not enough people have watched it, probably because it is such a short anime. I think it was like a one-shot or something, but like the author is plans on continuing it now that Bleach is coming to an end, and I'm super excited to see more of it be animated, more of it be written. It follows the story of these two girls. They are these law enforcement witches, and they go around trying to protect the community from these attacking dragons and other magical beings, I believe, and they fly. And it's super sick. I like it so much because I think the magical girl is not a new trope to anime. Like, it's a classic, it's a staple. Obviously, there's Cardcaptor Sakura, there's Sailor Moon. It's not a new trope, right? However, I think it's weird they're written in this way, in which the character designs are pretty mature. I mean, they're high schoolers, but they're pretty mature. Like, they're not overly kawaii-fied. I can't believe I just said kawaii-fied, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Like, they have such distinct, sick character designs, which could only come from the creator of Bleach. Honestly, like, his character designs are always sick. It is a bit more mature. I think they tackle things that, like, you know, like actual young girls go through, like young teenage girls. And yeah, they're also not overly sexualized, which is also very rare for like the genre in general. And I think it's like a girls show, but it's also a show for like anyone to watch, because the magic system itself is also pretty sick, despite the fact we barely know much about it. Look, that's the magic of good storytelling, okay? Like, you could have a whole system, not fully explain it, but you could just get it from watching it. It's sick. It's great. I would highly recommend watching that. In general, honestly, just watch any kind of witch or magic girl anime. I think that's super fall. Obviously, I mentioned a few examples. There's also The Flying Witch, which I started and never finished, but I heard it's another cozy anime, and again, it centers a female protagonist. So if you want that, Spice and Wolf as well. Honestly, I think it's just on my watch list. This is, again, I'm merging recommendations with my personal watch list. I've heard Spice and Wolf is also a super nice, cozy, found family anime that involves magic in some way, so, you know, we're on that trail end, so I'm recommending it. Another thing that's on theme, spooky, like there's magic. Death Parade. I would highly recommend Death Parade because it's been highly recommended to me a lot, and I finally started it, and I honestly think it's worth the watch so far. I'm only on episode 3, but basically, there's this bar, and people come to the bar involuntarily. They have no memory, they have no recollection of what's going on, but they go there essentially in order to be sent to heaven or hell. There's a lot more that goes into it. It's not just a simple Christian system of the afterlife, but basically they play a game. 2 contestants play a game in order to figure out who is going to heaven and who is going to hell, and it usually brings out either the best or the worst of the characters that you witness, and there's supposed to be some twist. Again, I'm not far enough in the show in order to be able to like give concise details about it, but death is so fall. I'm sorry, death is so freaking fall, and it has that really atmospheric, almost jazzy vibe that I think is really essential to fall and autumn and just as a whole. So I would highly recommend it, again, as something that's on theme if you're trying to get into that spooky mood. We talked about this, but death Death relates to gangs. Gangs are very, very fall. Another thing that's on my watch list is 91. It's a gang anime, which I don't know much about, but everyone always recommends it. And there's that one meme of him being like, hey, like what manga you like, or some shit like that. I'll insert it because I don't entirely remember what it's about, but I think it's super sick. I'm definitely going to be watching it because, again, like death, gangs, it's all very, very fall. I don't know what it is about it, but I think it's because found family. It's about jazz. It's about coziness. It's also about slight tragedy because, again, fall does bring about death. And so when you think about death, you think about gangs to a certain extent, and it'll probably be a good thing to watch. So I'm watching it. You should watch it too. That brings me to my next point, Moriarty the Patriot. This one I actually have watched and I would highly recommend because, again, I think it's underrated. I honestly think most animes that have only one season tend to be underrated, and that's very unfortunate. But Moriarty the Patriot is really, really good. For one, obviously Moriarty is a character from Sherlock Holmes, so it's kind of like this spin-off or like a story inspired by the Sherlock Holmes series. And as we all know, Sherlock Holmes mystery whodunit vibes, that is all very, very full. So you should run, not walk, to watch the show. It follows Moriarty, who is actually the antagonist in the original Sherlock Holmes work and the canon, and in this one he's actually the protagonist, where Sherlock Holmes is like an almost dirtagonist. This really interesting dynamic between those two characters. So if you want to watch that, and again, it has found family, it has crime, it has basically like this Robin Hood-esque thing going on. Highly recommend it. It's really good and it's really atmospheric, and I think will totally set you into the fall mood. Along with that, again, we're speaking of gangs. Because we're talking about gangs, we're talking about sectors, we're talking about death, I have to mention K, one of my favorite animes of all time. I don't even know, there's just something about that is so freaking atmospheric. So freaking atmospheric. Like, I don't even know what it is. K stands for kings, so it follows the story of, we see like all these different kings that are associated with colors, and they all have different unique powers given to them by this sword of Damocles. And as a result, these swords call other people to them and gives them powers as long as they join their gang. So these gangs surrounding these different kings with these different colors and different swords that have different belief systems that all happen to live in the same city and battle each other occasionally, have these rivalries, and it's really, really sick. I don't even know if I need to go into it more than that, because if I do, I'll spoil it, but I would highly recommend it because, again, it's really atmospheric. I feel like it's underrated. Like, people don't talk about it as much, so I felt the need to talk about it in this because, again, we're talking about fall animes. It's an anime that I watched in the fall and that I rewatch periodically. Like, it's that freaking good, so I would 10 out of 10 recommend. Oh yeah, and it has great fight scenes. I don't know if I mentioned that. It has great fight scenes. Hello. So if you want something like that, K. We're talking about gangs, we're talking about violence, we're talking about like on theme for like spookiness. For spookiness, yeah, there's something more on theme than Soul Eater. Let's be for real. Do I even have to explain this? It's called Soul Eater. If I show you the poster, like on the side, just watch the freaking show. It's been out for so long, I don't even feel the need to freaking explain it. The entire school is fall, right? It calls these characters that are very fall themed. There are your meisters, and then there are the people that transform into these weapons like sifs. Again, very, very fall. Death, hello. They battle, basically these souls are interrupting human life and are trying to battle in order to become, I guess, like the master of death or death itself or something, become the new death. Some shit like that, man. Like, I don't even know. It's really good. It's really good. Highly recommend. Honestly, I need to watch a couple episodes in order to get into the mood as well for fall, but specifically for Halloween, it's just a good show for that. Yeah, we're talking about good shows that have to do with souls and death and, you know, all things like that. Let's move on to 90s anime. Yu Yu Hakusho. I've made a whole video talking about it, so if you haven't watched it yet, you should watch it. But it's this show that follows the story of the spirit detective who is basically uses his spirit energy in order to fight against demons and protect the human world. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's the basic premise. Also, he dies in the first episode, so that's very, very interesting. It's also a found family dynamic between him and the other characters that are part of the main cast. Honestly, I like the show a lot because not only does he battle, not only is it a classic shonen, not only does it have like that nice cozy vibe of Saturday morning cartoons, but it's a show with deep comedy and also deep tragedy to a certain extent, and that's something that's very unique of a mixture that only Togashi Sensei so far I've seen pull off in a manner that's so incredibly magical and so incredibly captivating. Watch the show. While we're on the street of 90s animes in general, like Yu Yu Hakusho has sons, and Bleach is definitely one of them. Bleach, I know, has like the 1,000-year whatever is coming out right now that has that whole 20s animation. We're in the 20s of the sorry, I got lost in the sauce there. But yeah, that's another thing that's really, I would highly recommend. It's one of the big three, so I don't really have to explain it, but I would highly recommend it because, again, it has to do with souls going into the afterlife, soul energy, you know, like there's the soul society. There's a whole lot going on, and the drip is fantastic. I think Bleach is one of those super fall shows, and again, it has such a banger opening. I fear I have to say and admit that it's one of those shows that I have not fully finished in its entirety, and I apologize deeply for that. I need to get on that, and it's definitely on the list for this year, I promise you. So I'll be watching Bleach And if you haven't yet, or if you need to rewatch it, I hope you watched along with me. While we're on the bop of 90s anime, let's talk specifically about the jazzy. Let's talk about the zesty. Let's talk about the spiciness of some of these also older animes. For example, Cowboy Bebop, super jazzy. It is a bit tragic indeed. I don't even know what that show is about, but every single time I see clips about that show, every single time people are like, oh, it's a classic. You must watch it. It gives certain energy. I need to watch it. It's on the list. It's giving more November than October vibes for me, though, in terms of priority list. But it's definitely a show I'm going to watch because it has elements of tragedy to it. Again, it's like a mystery. It's super jazzy. The color scheme is incredibly fall. It has like those nice warm and semi-neutral tones, and it's incredible animation and fight scene. And it follows like this gang again of like found family. So yeah, that's definitely very fall. There's also Michiko and Hachin, which I've definitely watched, and I think it also gives Cowboy Bebop vibes in a similar sense. And it follows this woman named Michiko. She's black. And she's the protagonist of the show, and basically she is this criminal who breaks out of jail and ends up incidentally adopting Hachin because I think she is the daughter of the man that she used to love, which is super spicy and super zesty. And the whole show is about them kind of battling with each other, kind of getting used to each other as this family, and they are both so like faulty and like unique in their own ways, and they go through things and they don't always make the right decisions. I think that's super fall, you know, like let girls make bad decisions, okay? Like that's something I love to see in a show. So I would highly recommend Michiko and Hachin. Also Samurai Champloo, which I have not watched, but I've heard is good for the season. So again, I would highly recommend. Yeah. In terms of jazziness, I would also recommend Durara. That's a really good anime that I think people don't talk about as much lately because I don't know, the art style is very uniquely like early 2000s vibes. It's a really good show that follows these multiple narratives, and it is super jazzy, is crime jam-packed. You know, like the Headless Horseman, I think that's what it's called, that they have one of those in the show, but she's a woman and she is super fine and the center of the show in a lot of different ways, and ways are not fully explained. It's spooky, it's speculative, it is following multiple narratives, and none of the characters are entirely perfect. I think it's just not one of those perfect shows, man. Like 10 out of 10, recommend that for the fall. So if it's been on your list, you should definitely watch it because it's one of my favorites, I would say, for like that kind of genre of like spooky, zesty, multiple narratives. You also just don't see it that often. So if you're looking for something fresh, highly recommend Durara. I think it's still on Netflix, but the way Netflix be going, like, babe, it might not still be on there. But you should watch it. Pirate. You didn't hear that from me. Another thing that is very fall to me is sports anime. I'm sorry, I'm such a sports anime whore. I won't recommend it whenever I have the chance to, okay? Like, sports anime to me is very, very fall because honestly, anything that takes place in a school setting is very fall to me. Not for any particular reason. I think it's just because it takes place at school, and usually most of the sports animes also are found family. That's to do with struggle. I think a lot of them, because they have to reckon with a character's internal struggles and what they're dealing with and how they grow as a person, all of that feels very, very fall because I think development and slight tragedy and slight frustration with oneself feels very fall to me. So yeah, I have to recommend sports animes. Number 1, Haikyuu. That needs no explanation or introduction because it is one of my favorite animes of all time. All time. Please watch it. Do it for the culture. I think it's just one of the best sports animes of all time. So if you need a reason to watch it, just that. I would also highly recommend Ace of the Diamond. I watched it recently, beginning of this year. Y'all, I was not prepared. It actually has to be my number 2, I think, in terms of sports anime. It has a lot of episodes, so if you're looking for something to span the season, I would highly recommend Ace of the Diamond. There's not many animes that come out like that anymore, but it has a good few hundred episodes, which makes it great because that means you can fully invest into it and get all immersed up in the characters without worrying about having to say goodbye too soon. It follows the story of this boy named Asian, and he wants to be the ace of his team. However, his own middle school is falling apart. He doesn't know which high school to go to, and he ends up being recruited and found by this school named Sato. Unlike other sports animes, I would say like the main character is not the center of the team, at least not in the beginning, right? Like he is trying to be the ace, but he obviously has a lot to learn maturity wise. He has a lot to learn and skill set, and he learns a lot of that from the team. Like the team kind of shows him what it means to truly play baseball, to play Sato's baseball, and he grows a lot as a result. And you go through with the main character and its highs and lows, but it is all so fucking worth it by the end of the show, okay? And it's also very, very funny. It's very funny. It's very wholesome. It's very found family like. I have to recommend it a lot because it's just that fucking good of a show. Oh, Run with the Wind is very fall. I can't exactly explain why. I think it's just because it's so nice and slow, and I don't think many animes are very like nice and slow and cozy in that manner. Run with the Wind definitely has that like nice slow atmospheric vibe that is very good for fall shows, so I would recommend it. And then there's also Al Ashi. I'm gonna recommend this one because people are always like Blue Lock. And I say, yeah, go ahead. If you haven't watched Blue Lock yet, watch it. But Al Ashi is another soccer anime that came out, I think like literally like the summer before Blue Lock came out, because Blue Lock came out last fall. And it's really good. It's really good. It follows Aoi, who is the protagonist of the show. Honestly, I think the premise is similar to Ace of the Diamond. It's just that Aoi literally has no skills like whatsoever, and he's trying to make it on a team. There's also a bit of romance in there, which you don't normally see in sports animes, because it focuses on like the bromance of it all, and also just like developing as a human being, which sometimes I think in animes romance can derail that, which is quite unfortunate, because I love me a good romance, but they usually focus on development of human being, developing of a family, developing of yourself. But actually it does that while also still incorporating a good romance. It's one of the few sports animes that actually has a solid romance that isn't just like one of the female characters rooting for him like off screen in the stands, you know what I'm saying? It's more involved than that. So I would highly recommend Aoashi for looking for cozy, a similar vibe to Ace of the Diamond, shorter, and you know, it just has that vibe. Chihaya Furu. People just underestimate Chihaya Furu, I think. It's like a very specific Japanese sport that involves cards, singing off poetry basically from those cards and then picking them off. But it is a sports anime, and it follows Chihaya. She grew up with these two boys, and one of them ends up going off after he teaches her about one of his favorite games, right? The game involves the card sports thing. He runs off, and it ends up being reunited through this game again, and they play against each other, and she's trying to basically bring him back to being like more like himself. And there's also a love triangle element, but it's actually one of the least annoying love triangles I've ever seen in anime. I don't think it did a good job explaining that, but it's very fall, it's very cozy. It's one of the few sports animes I think that have a female protagonist that actually feels like good, because I think there are a good few of them. Like Birdie Wing, if watched, that one's also pretty good, but Chihaya has something special in it that is similar to what I find special in my other favorites. That's it for sports anime. Next we have shoujo and the cozy anime. I feel like a good amount of the ones I've recommended have been cozy, but these are like cozy specifically, like it's pure cozy, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a different breed of cozy. So for one, Fruits Basket, if you haven't watched it, your mom. Because why haven't you watched it yet? Where have you been? Not only has there been the original that came out in the 90s, but there was the one that came out in like, it was in the 2010s. Like, babe, where have you been? You should go ahead and watch that. It's very fall vibes. It's one of the classics, so I don't really feel the need to expand it. But again, Toru, zodiac animal transforming men and women and non-binary folk. And they're all basically finding a family in each other and basically making peace with years-long trauma. Would highly recommend it. Skip and Loafer. This is an anime that actually came out, I think, spring season this year. Would highly recommend it. Would highly recommend it. When I first saw the show, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this, because the art style is just very much, it was different, and I thought it would be like a super cliche story with, oh yeah, awkward girl gets with the most popular guy in school. Wow, I've never seen that before, you know what I'm saying? It's more than that. So cozy. I like it too because I think like the friendship, especially between like the female characters of the show, is so nice and gorgeous, and it contains depth that you don't really see in a lot of other animes. I think it's worth the watch. Like the found family here is a lot stronger. Characters have faults, but they're still very much lovable. Each character is a lot more than like what they seem when you originally watch it, so I would highly recommend. It's good, it's solid. There's also Horimiya. Again, this leads very little interaction. It actually recently finished. There was Horimiya season 1 and there's the missing pieces, and I think now that both are out, you can actually watch them in the original order from the manga, like in that kind of way. It's one of the few romances that do like a really good job, I would say, of not making it overly dramatic or overly complicated. Like it really just feels like two people that found each other, found a person in each other, and are genuinely trying to make it work. And then also their friends don't just disappear into the background. They're really interesting characters. It's just a really interesting cast. I like the missing pieces a lot actually, because you see a lot more of the character dynamics. Season 1 focused a lot on their romance. Missing pieces kind of shows a lot of like the character dynamics and like what you should like about each character. It gave them a lot more depth, and me personally, I love a good cast of characters, so the missing pieces really gave me the missing pieces. So now both are out. If you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and watch it. Watch in order if you want to, or watch them separate. Either way, it's good. It's one of the best romance animes of all time, in my opinion. There's also Full Metal Panic. This one is actually relatively old. There's Full Metal Panic and Full Metal Panic Fufufu. It's a mecha romance slash bodyguard anime. Does that intrigue you? Because it intrigued me. It's actually very, very good. I would highly recommend it. It's about this ex-soldier teenage boy, and he's one of the best of his class. But he's being sent in order to guard this girl for a reason I entirely forget, but he's being sent to guard her because she's important to the government for whatever reason, and they end up finding like comfort and solace in each other. Like she kind of teaches him how to be human, and I think it's a really interesting dynamic and story to watch, which honestly a lot of people don't recommend it, and I don't entirely understand why. It's kind of disappeared into the abyss of all of the anime that came out during that period. It's really good. I would highly recommend it. It's mecha. Honestly, also mecha anime in general feels fall to me. It's more like fall winter-ish. Like it's something you watch late November, like mid to late November. Specifically that, because of the fact that it involves machines, and machines kind of like give off like that dead vibe, you know what I'm saying? There's some mechas, like Gundam animes, like they're not necessarily season specific, but for example, Code Geass, Neon Evangelion, I think those are great animes to watch that have a slight tragic twist to it. And then finally, I don't even know, this is random, I couldn't really fit into any other category. Actually, yes, cozy. For cozy, Food Wars. I don't give a fuck what y'all have to say. Food Wars, highly recommend it. It's about dudes that make food and really like food, and occasionally clothes are ripped off, but it's for the plot. It's for the plot. Therefore, the fan service is not as heinous as it can be in other shows. So, and also the fan service is equal. Okay. I can't believe we're ending there, but we're ending there. That is all I have for fall recommendations. Yeah, hopefully something on this list intrigues you, catches your attention. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. If you like this video, make sure to do the usual, like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all my medias. They're always linked down below, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.